They said since he was a boy, he had the inner sight, third eye, vision. I think I saw you in my dreams, so rough as I am. So in my dreams, seek me up, heart's pain. Seek me up, grandfather in the pouring rain. So far away from the earth and ground, so far away. Computer age, back to the trees in the sacred grove. A druid ivy, no modern anything, back to the ancient ways, to the olam. As I hear you in my head, fire in my head, grandfather, scold to the poet that does come from deep down. As Sweden and my grandfather calls it, as Ireland calls my name, from the high king on down to the kings to the land of the sovereignty which the goddess reigns, which the goddess reigns. Goddess also as it came to extinguish the flame, from 19 druidesses to 19 nuns, illusion override, keep the web so from the chalice that is the goddess that was changed, from Arthur which held the cup from which he read, back to the Welsh land, borderland tribes, from the Picton to the Scotland to the the Irishman to the Englishman, oi, 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 oh. Fire in the head, fire in the heartbeat. Wise women sitting young, wise men in the forest deep. Fire in their head, love to root down so. Grandfather, grandmother told me so. I can listen or fall away. Wisdom's away. Flame well and free. Flame well and free. And trio. See it in my third eye, deep within inner sight. Maybe that's what they meant by Odin's eye. Was the third eye. Everything means something else, it seems so, in the old ancient wisdom that is. Well, the truth just is so. No illusion will ever erase truth. Deep down, deep down, deep down, so. Thought and memory, oh. Ravens circle overhead. Ravens fly deep in my mind. From the skull to the mountain, they say. I can hear it reverberate and resonate through the canyon to the forest, to the shanty on the sea. Goddess cold, heart's pain. Grandmother Bulldog said, getting away, and be way deep down, you know, but feel notice third eye and heart's pain and harmony said, if you're divided against yourself in your heart and mind and heart and harmony, you can be misled, compartmentalized, and otherwise overlooked. Freedom said, folk free on the mountain, they say. He's a legend. crystal key. Down of memory. Folk soul remedy. Memory and Jackson. He's got his own way in a chamber of heart and soul where I live. When it all goes down and it crumbles to dust to the ground, so the only thing that remains, that remains, that remains, that remains. Only thing that remains, folks, only thing that remains, anyway. Once upon a fire, once upon a bed. Hearts flame burn low. Ember. That's what they say. They say. Come upon a plane. Not singing for my entertainment. I'm singing from deep down of heart and soul. Forever. Oh, circle all around me. Forevermore. Remember when that pound in the fire, you know, 'cause the soul lives on forever. wise women with the love to stay. Wise men with the love to stay in the woodland. So grandmother, grandfather, that's for sure. Way down, to even see the set. But I'm just a blind man. I can feel the tremors in the ground like a blind man. Oh, but my heart is not blind, my third eye's wide open. The mind in my heart is 100% awake. Keep down, oh, I can feel it coming down the pipeline, you know. I can say, yes, I told you it was coming down. If you listen to what I said, took action on the way. That's your choice. Stagnate and stay. Don't matter anyway. Matters to me. I want freedom. So hearts flame to burn. Hearts flame to burn. So love's flame. See to say, all I ever wanted was love's flame. Grandmother, grandmother. Let us see where it was. Well, we'll find out. Aha. Sampa is the main food of Tibetans. Some people live on sampa and tea from their first meal in life to their last. It is made from barley, which is roasted to a nice, crisp, golden brown. Then the barley kernels are cracked so that the flour is exposed. Then it is roasted again. This flour is then put in a bowl, and hot buttered tea is added. The mixture is stirred until it attains the consistency of dough. Salt, borax, and yak butter are added to taste. The result, sampa, can be rolled into slabs, made into buns, or molded into decorative shapes. Sampa is monotonous stuff alone, but it really is a very compact, concentrated food which will sustain life at all altitudes and under all conditions. I'm going to comment. I've worked many hard physical jobs. I've pushed myself, right? So I had to adapt my diet, right? And whatever would up my energy level so I could handle all the lifting, the exercise, right? So for both men and women, American ginseng is good. Best to buy it in bulk because of lack of potency, right? And most roots are what, 5 to 7 years old, maybe 3, but that's not going to be very strong. With age, you gain potency. So mix that with ginkgo biloba, works really well synergistically. And being aware of what ginseng does, because red panax stimulates testosterone. So if you're a lady, you might not want to do that, okay? But Korean ginseng will milk your adrenal glands. So you don't want to sit there and take that all the time. So you can't just say ginseng. Well, what type? Because different species do different things. Anyway, American ginseng, both men and women can take it. And it is a preventative for not only, well, it's a stress adaptogen, but a preventative for diabetes, okay? According to the research. In my opinion, I'm not a doctor, just talking about herbs. Well, some servants were making sampa, others were making butter. Our butter making methods could not be commended on hygienic grounds. So you would have to heat, right? Make sure no bacteria. Our churns were large. Here we go. Goat skin, let's see, bags with the hair inside. Wow. They were filled with yak or goat milk, and the neck was then twisted, turned over, and tied to make it leak proof. The whole thing was then bumped up and down until butter was formed. Okay. We had a special butter making floor which had stone protuberances about 18 inches high. This is getting interesting. I'm a chef, so I'm like, okay. The bags full of milk were lifted and dropped onto these protuberances, which had the effect of churning the milk. It was monotonous to see and hear perhaps 10 servants lifting and dropping these bags hour after hour. There was the indrawn as the bag was lifted, okay, and the squashy, that's how he's describing it, zonk, as it was dropped. Sometimes a carelessly handled or old bag would burst. Oh my God. Here we go. So I worked in banquets, the short story. And we're on the back dock and we have to dump, get rid of food, hot food. We're emptying the hot carts, whatever. So we warn this guy and we go, dude, do not pull the bag straight up out of the can. It will explode all over the place. He's like, whatever, bro. I'm like, no, dude, you got to roll it in. Otherwise, you're in trouble. Of course, he doesn't listen. He gets it up all the way out of the bag. He's trying to go over to the dumpster. And just as he kind of swings it back, the whole bottom just drops out and it goes everywhere. I'm sorry. We're like, dude, we warned you anyway. I remember one. But we would also give food to the homeless. So you know what I mean. I remember one really hefty fellow who was showing off his strength. Here we go. He was working twice as fast as everyone else. That's what that guy was doing. And the veins were standing out on his neck with the exertion. Someone said, "You are getting old, Timon, and you are slowing up." Timon grunted with rage and grasped the neck of the bag in his mighty hands, lifting it, and dropped the bag down. but his strength had done its work. The bag dropped, but Timon still had his hands and the neck in the air. So let's see. Square on the stone, protuberances dropped the bag, shot a column of half-formed butter straight into the face of the stupefied Timon. Okay, that's funny. Into his mouth, eyes, ears, hair, running down his body, covering him with 12 to 15 gallons of golden slush. Holy shit, this is hilarious. Mother, attracted by the noise, oh God, rushed in. It was the only time I have known her to be speechless. It may have been rage at the loss of the butter, or because she thought the poor fellow was choking, but she ripped off the torn goat skin and thwacked poor Timon over the head with it. He lost his footing on the slippery floor and dropped into the spreading buttery mist. Oh my God, another story that I have. So I think I was like, I don't know, 12. And I lived in the university village. So I had a lot of different friends from different countries and shit, international community, regular friends, American shit too. Anyway, I'm at my Korean friend's house. His mom was strict as shit. He could not play outside. Hell no. And if he did, it had to be within her sight. He was an honor student. That's the way it was. No shit. So anyway, sitting in his house with him, hanging out. He introduced me to kimchi. It's like this spicy fermented cabbage. They would make their own. Anyway, remember. So, Tobin, my friend, won't say his last name, had accidentally sat on his mother's foot. We're too young to understand, customs and, not to laugh. We didn't, but we almost did, because his mom picked up her shoe and said his name and went whack and hit him. And it reminded me of that. And I'm like, damn, that's some hardcore shit. And anyway, it just reminded me of that, but the difference, my mom didn't do that, but so he's very successful now. Anyway, okay. Clumsy workers such as Timon could ruin the bacha, but if they were careless when plunging the bags on the protruding stones, they would cause the hair inside the bag to tear loose and become mixed with the butter. Ugh. No one minded picking a dozen or two hairs out of the butter. I would think you could strain it, maybe. I don't know. But whole wads of it was frowned upon. Ugh. Such butter was set aside for, use in the lamps. That makes sense. Even the hair could become like a wick, right? Or for distribution to beggars, who would heat it and strain it, there you go, like I said, through a piece of cloth, also set aside for beggars, were the mistakes in culinary preparations. If a household wanted to let the neighbors know what a high standard was set, really good food was prepared and set before the beggars as mistakes. So that was kind of a status symbol. It was like your shit was so supreme, right, that your mistakes were like king's food, whatever. These happy, well-fed gentlemen would then wander around to the other houses saying how well they had eaten. See, that brings up the rep, good vibes. The neighbors would respond by seeing that the beggars had a very good meal. There is much to be said for the life of a beggar in Tibet. They never want by using the tricks of their trade. They can live exceedingly well. There is no disgrace in begging in most of the eastern countries. Many monks beg their way from lamasery to lamasery. It is a recognized practice and is not considered any worse than is, say, collecting the charities in any other countries. I also might note that you learn to survive on what you need rather than excess. Got it? Better, less stress. Goddamn, would you want to sit there and spend fucking 20 years to get a goddamn mansion? Stress yourself out. No thanks. Those who feed a monk on his way are considered to have done a good deed. Beggars too have their code, a beggar's code, okay? If a man gives to a beggar, that beggar will stay out of the way and will not approach the donor again for a certain time. Oh my God, I have another story. I was working security at an event and I had a homeless guy that was begging before they were even open, right? Supposed to wait till the end of the show. Their kids are playing, trunks open on the car. Anyway, I told them to leave, and that was it. But he should have known by having manners, the beggar's code, to not do that. But I kicked him out. Anyway. Two priests attached to our household also had their part in the preparations for the coming event. They went to each animal carcass in our larders and said, oh, larders, okay, anyway. And laud is the root word. And said prayers for the souls of the animals who had inhabited those bodies. It was our belief that if an animal was killed even by accident and eaten, humans would be under a debt to that animal. Such debts were paid by having a priest pray over the animal's body in the hope of ensuring that the animal reincarnated into a higher status in the next life upon earth. In the lamaseries and temples, some monks devoted their whole time praying for animals. Wow. You know, the animal styles that you have in Chinese Kung Fu, right? 5 main styles. Dragon's one of them, right? Similar principle that it would be connected to these type of animistic practices, in my opinion. Our priests had the task of praying over the horses. That would be a big one, remember, because in their culture, horses are extremely sacred and important. Okay, so they would pray over the horses before a long journey, prayers to avoid the horses becoming too tired, right? So they're infusing these animals with, like, you know, it's almost like they're enchanted, you know what I'm saying, if you relate it in a magical context. In this connection, our horses were never worked for 2 days together. So that's smart. They made sure to switch their horses out, rest them, right? If a horse was ridden on one day, then it had to be rested the next day. The same rule applied to the work animals. See, that's why you get the highest potential out of the animal, because you give them time to recover and rebuild. Okay. And they all knew it. And by any chance a horse was picked for riding and it had been ridden the day before, it would just stand still and refuse to move. See, now they've learned that's what they're supposed to do. So on their day off, they're like, hey, screw you, man, I'm not going to work. When the saddle was removed, it would turn away with a shake of the head, as if to say, well, I'm glad that injustice has been removed. Donkeys were worse. They would wait until they were loaded, and then they would lie down and try to roll on the load. Oh my God. Here we go. We had 3 cats, and they were on duty all the time. See, now remember, you had grain. In order to keep the rodents out of the grain, you would have cats. Just like they would snakes and undo the same shit. One lived in the stables and exercised stern discipline over the mice. They had to be very wary mice to remain mice and not cat food. Another cat lived in the kitchen. I got a kitchen cat. Oh, the homies, they're posted up. He was elderly and a bit of a simpleton. His mother had been frightened by the guns of the Young Husband expedition in 1904. And Yeah, because animals can be traumatized too by events. And he had been born too soon and was their like cat genetic memory being passed down, the only one of the litter to live. Appropriately, he was called Young Husband. The third cat was a very respectable matron who lived with us. She was a model of maternal duty and did her utmost to see that the cat population was not allowed to fall. Oh my God. When not engaged as a nurse to her kittens, she used to follow mother about from room to room. She was a small and black, and in spite of having a hearty appetite, she looked like a walking skeleton. Well, that's because that cat got some exercise. You're not stuck in the house, you're going around. Tibetan animals are not pets. Did you hear that? Nor are they slaves. They are beings with a useful purpose to serve, beings with rights just as human beings have. So that's how I treat my cat. He's my friend, not my slave. Got it? According to Buddhist belief, all animals, all creatures, in fact, have souls and are reborn to earth in successfully higher stages. Okay? Quickly, the replies to our invitations came in. Men came galloping up to our gates, brandishing the cleft messenger sticks. Down from his room would come the steward to do honor to the messenger of the nobles. The man would snatch his message from the stick and gasp out the verbal version. There you go. Oral tradition, most ancient, remember? Then he would sag at the knees. I know you remember, but it just helps to remind. And sink to the ground with exquisite histrionic ought to indicate that he had given all his strength to deliver his message to the house of Rompa. Our servants would play their part by crowding round with many clucks. Poor fellow, we made a wonderfully quick journey. Burst his heart with the speed, no doubt. Poor noble fellow, I once disgraced myself completely by pipping up. Oh no, he hasn't. I saw him resting little way out so that he could make a final dash. It will be discreet to draw a veil of silence over the painful scene which followed. At last, the day arrived. The day I dreaded when my career was to be decided for me. You see, he didn't get to choose because he's high rank. They choose. With no choice on my part, the first rays of the sun were peeping over the distant mountains when a servant dashed into my room. What? Not up yet? Tuesday, Lob sang Rampa. My, you are a lie abed. It's 4 o'clock. Oh my God, it's got to be his mom or something. And there is much to be done. Get up. I pushed aside my blanket and got to my feet. For me, this day was to point the path of my life. In Tibet, 2 names are given. The first being the day of the week on which one was born. I was born on a Tuesday. So, Tuesday was my first name. Interesting. Then Lob sang that was the name given to me by my parents. But if a boy should enter a lamasery, he would be given another name, his monk name. Was I to be given another name? Only the passing hours would tell. I, at 7, wanted to be a boatman, swaying and tossing on the river Singpo. 40 miles away, but wait a minute. Did I? Boatmen are of low caste because they use boats of yak hide stretched over wooden formers. Boatmen? Low caste? No. I wanted to be a professional flyer of kites. That was better. To be as free as the air, much better than being in a degrading little skin boat drifting on the turgid stream. A kite flyer, that is what I would be, and make wonderful kites with huge heads and glaring eyes. But today, the priest astrologers would have their say, Perhaps I'd left it a bit late. I could not get out of the window and escape now. Father would soon send men to bring me back. No, after all, I was a rompa and had to follow the steps of tradition. Maybe the astrologers would say that I should be a kite flyer. I could only wait and see. So that is the end of chapter 1. Okay, that's it. Chapter 2, end of my childhood. All right. Ow, Yulgi. That's Yulgye. You are pulling my head off. I shall be as bald as a monk if you don't stop. Hold your peace, Tuesday Lob saying. Your pigtail must be straight and well buttered. Oh my God. Or your honorable mother will be after my skin. But Yulgi, you don't have to be so rough. You are twisting my head off. Oh, I can't bother about that. I'm in a hurry. So there I was, sitting on the floor with a tough man servant winding up my pigtail. Eventually, the wretched thing was as stiff as a frozen yak and shining like moonlight on the lake. Mother was in a whirl, moving round so fast that I felt almost as if I had several mothers. There was last-minute orders, final preparations, and much excited talk. Okay, that's where I stop, and I will come back and restart that. We're on page 34 of The Third Eye by T. Lob Singh Rompa. Okay, thank you. No, that was cool. Continue reading. I said, I think I'll just make this whole book a focus and a meditation. Getting clear, grounding, figuring out what's going on, right? Crystal cave, inner sight. So I snapped to high E. So what I did is I see this string here. This is the same string, but much higher tension in order to get the high end. Until I can buy a new set of folk classical strings. Well, I don't want my future to be a cardboard box in an alleyway, so better wake on up. But if it all comes down, I walk into the woodland and strap my harp on my back, and I, oi, 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 oi. And I'd say, grandmother, grandfather, got me on the way seat. 'Cause all I have is a heart song and a harp strapped on my back. I've been waiting deep down, in a sight, in a vision, say. Heart song I send to my people. I said, grandmother, grandfather, bless it with soul. So to say so. And lift the spirit of my people. Love in the heart and soul. like a dragon fire. I look into the sky, see the new moon and the star above shining brightly in the sky. Third eye, third eye. Some coming down, so deep down, say. It's coming down the pipeline, say. Coming down the pipeline, coming down the pipeline, slow. Pipeline, say. Rasp down, so easy on the way. Nope. So, I have stopped buying cigarettes. That's right. Gotta heal up my voice, clean out my lungs, right? Make my vocals better and less froggy, right? And that has to do with meditation, right? Vocal toning. Oh, but you gotta tune that just like the strings on a guitar. So that's what these old monks knew. I think our people did that too. Meditating in caves, it's primal, right? Because you're going to hear the resonance in the cave. Big chamber, bunch of people in there. And I remember hearing those stories where they would aim these, horns at giant stones, and they could vibrate the stone to the point where it would either roll and move or float, according to the story. It makes sense. Vibration, right? Energy, vibration, matter, form, existence, reality. Consciousness directing energy that forms reality. So these monks would sit up the hill, right? They'd have giant horns. So you add that plus meditation and energy. How do people know what is possible? They don't. So they have this attitude of discounting before even looking. The height of ignorance. Wow. But that is modern culture. If it isn't tech, then it's not possible. Well, tech is based on primal principles. It always has been, always will be. And so I don't think anything's a mystery. I think we've been told shit's hidden, it's gone, it's buried. So you won't look. It is all around us in nature. It's a matter of waking up to it. That is all the ancients did. They studied nature 24/7, just like those monks did. And they figured shit out in their area, right? Like they figured out the chalks and different colors they could find. Or they would take shells and grind that down for color, whatever, something. But it is a loss of connection to just the earth in general. Really. Think about it. Most people sit inside the majority of their life. Whoa. You go to work in a box, building. You go home to a box, your house. You are buried in a box. Do you see what I'm saying? Circle around. I want to live in a circle, not a goddamn square. Just saying. If possible. I do like those old craftsman houses, you know? The house had something to it, like a soul. Now, if your grandfather had built that, right? There's an energy there instead of just some slap it together in 2 seconds house. Solid wood. Now, perspective on value of wood. All of a sudden, it's not easy to get. Value is high, right? You would, right? So, after reading that story and thinking about the Tuatha De Danann and them being reported to have advanced tech and all this other stuff, now they're reported as, you know, like blonde hair, blue-eyed, and there's connections between the different European humans. We'll just say that. Tribes, whatever. I'm this, I'm that. There is a root core. That's what I feel. So, and each tribe has an ancient grandmother and grandfather that is the alpha. My opinion, of course. And that is who you answer to in the other world. And if you think you're just going to be a disrespecting person, think about the grandmother's response when that happened. Bam. She didn't put up with any shit at all. That's what I'm saying, man. People are used to soft discipline. That is different. You know, there's a balanced way to approach it. You know what I'm saying? It's on a survival level. But in the spirit world, you are your essence. So it's kind of like bringing in disease, right? Into a clean space. That's what having bad intention is. Around the tribal circle, if you catch what I'm saying. But if you have good intention, all of a sudden you're like, I feel great around this person. And I don't, wow. And then you get around somebody else, and you're like, for some reason, that person feels like a slimy piece of shit. Well, yeah, get away from them. You got to discern, is that you or is that them? And know the difference of what your energy is and what theirs is. We all radiate bioelectromagnetic energy, and I don't give a shit what anyone says. Science, baby. And the whole goddamn earth runs off of it. God is blessed, or whatever you want to say. But it's energy. And all matter is energy slowed down. Hear me? In a holding pattern. In my opinion, of course. So if we become conscious to the fact that we are energy, well, then we are literally our thoughts and emotions. And that is all that is left when this body is done. And that's how I feel. Now, grandmother, grandfather, show me a way to root down, 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 say it. Root down the fight. Root down, say. Hail to the mountain, hail to the mountain, to the mountain, folks, so mountain. I was watching just this little bobcat. Just wanted to survive the mountainside. They always point and laugh. Survived the troppers, they had knocked my teeth out. But I got away. Small as I am, I'm the bobcat on Folksome Mountain. Said, Folksome, say, will you come with me on the way? Wise ones gather all around we. Wise ones gather all around me in the pouring rain. Pouring rain can rain all the time. Grow to circle round overhead, easy on the way. Suffering's over. But if they came, the immortal guardian, the immortal guardians from the other realm, say I, oh, grandfather, standing on the way, coming down, said, signs in the sky, signs in the sky. New moon, the star above. Click, click, click. As it rotates around the circle round. Oh. Oh, the flame you said you would hold the flame, said you would guard the world safe. Thank you. I shall return.